Namaskar. Namaskar and welcome back to the Eikam series on the Gita On The Go. The last time we really saw the Vishwarupa. In the Vishwarupa Darshan, we realized that it wasn't just about the universe, the cosmos, the Brahman, but it wasn't even about our experience of the Brahman and the Vishwarupa. We were the Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. And what a divine state it is. In fact, I often wonder and I often tell Samir this कि इसके बाद और क्या हो सकता है दुनिया में. इससे पहले जब हमने विभूति योग किया था, then we spoke about the fact that if we can only elevate ourselves to see the divine glory, we will have started tasting that Amrit, experiencing that Brahman. And then with the Vishwarupa Yoga, we became the Brahman. And it was just that flip of perspective, that diffusion of the ego, that ability to see not only the clay in all the pots, but the pots in all the clay. और जिस दिन हमने वो ego dissolve कर दिया, वो line diffuse कर दी, that's when we become the Brahman. That's when we are able to see the Vishwarupa, the cosmos, the universe, and everything in all its glory. Everything that's the manifest and that's the unmanifest. And with that, we now welcome you into the Adhyay 12 of the Bhagwad Gita, which is the Bhakti Yoga. And with that, I welcome Samir back
Namaste.
To us on the Gita On The Go. Samir, always such a pleasure and a privilege.
Mine too.
And after now having experienced the Vishwarupa, not only do I feel a place where I feel insignificant in that manifest reality and in the existence there is, and yet I feel significant as part of that manifest, as that manifest. So in my mind, I'm thinking, and I have two questions. The first question is about the fact that हमने जब when we did the Vibhuti Yoga, we saw the divine glory. We saw the best that there is of everything. We were able to rise above ourselves and beyond our petty little egos to actually taste the Amritam, right? And then we saw the Vishwarupa. When we thought that it just couldn't get any bigger, better, we became part of it with the Vishwarupa. When we were able to see, it's not even see and experience, but just be
Correct.
The universe. But we couldn't deal with it. हमने कहा rise up above your petty ego and, beyond your own self and become part of that large divine universe. We did that. And it was so overwhelming. We saw how terrified Arjun was of what happened. And then he actually requested Bhagwan Sri Krishna ki, I see you, I feel you, but this is all too much for me to take in, for me to hold, for me to stay with. So can you come back into that familiar four-armed form that I can hold, touch, taste, see, feel, experience, relate to, but with that larger consciousness.
Correct.
So, here I am thinking that Arjuna, and therefore by extension us, we have an every day, every minute, our dependent access. It only needs us to shift perspective. It
Correct.
Doesn't need the cosmos to change anything.
Correct.
And yet we can't deal with it. Arjun asks this in the Bhakti Yoga, and he actually starts with saying, so what's better? This form that I can see, hold, experience, relate to, and anchor myself in, me dissolved in and part of this large Vishwarupa. That's question one. I'll come back to question two.
So, can we go back to chapter 9 for a minute? See, holding on to anything requires me to do three things. There is an action, right? Holding
Yes.
on. And it requires, therefore, three things. And in chapter 9, verse number 22, he says, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam.
Yes.
I will give you whatever you need. I will protect whatever you have. But you need to do three things. Ananya chinta, which means you need to do enough. You have to do it pariupasana. Not only upasana, but a highly qualified upasana, are very there's a whole amount of devotion
Yes.
or commitment, let's
Yes.
put it, or to do the right thing. And nitya, constantly. Right? I actually translate this into 3 words. And I say, am I doing enough? Sufficiency. Am I doing the right things? Proficiency. And am I doing them regularly? Consistency. And if you, in any field that you want, in your practical world, in the material world, in the spiritual world, this is the methodology, right? But so what has Krishna done? He's given him a taste of where he can go. He's given him a taste of the goal. But he knows that he has to go there on his own. He can't be given that and be kept there by somebody else. Again, over there in chapter 5, Sri Krishna says, Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. You have to get up by yourself. Na Atmanam Avasadaya. Don't allow yourself to fall down.
Yes.
See Ramakrishna Paramahansa's and Vivekananda's journey. And Vivekananda asked him, have you seen God? And he said, yes. And then that made this young Naren to keep going back. And on one occasion, Thakur touched Swamiji with his foot. And Swamiji transcended. And when he came back, Swamiji was asking, what have you done to me? I have a family. See Arjuna's state and see Vivekananda's state. Exactly the same. They are in the same boat. And he's saying, take me back. I can't live in this. And Thakur says, now that you know where you've got to go, I've kept it locked up. You will get there when you finish your work. And what's your work? The work is the journey. Now, what is the work we've got to do? Sufficiency, proficiency, consistency. Of what? That's where chapter 12 takes us and says, of bhakti.
So here's my second question, Samir. That throughout chapters 1 to 6, हमने कर्म योग भी कर लिया, हमने कर्म संन्यास योग भी कर लिया, हमने ज्ञान कर्म संन्यास योग भी कर लिया. We've transcended all those paths, right? We've actually also spoken of bhakti when we spoke of in chapter 8 and chapter 9 of the fact that एक अच्छे डिसाइपल में क्या होना चाहिए और क्या नहीं होना चाहिए जब हमने करा था. और उसमें तो हमने भी कहा था कि अप्रोच दिस विद फेथ, डिवोशन एंड डेडिकेशन, श्रद्धा, भक्ति एंड विश्वास, राइट? तो now where is the bhakti yoga coming from?
You see, because bhakti is possible only after you have touched or tasted the oneness. उसके पहले क्या है? उपासना है, साधना है. भक्ति तो तब होगी जब मैं वननेस एक्सपीरियंस करूंगा. फिर वहां से जैसे ही हट जाऊंगा, क्योंकि हटना नेचुरल है,
करेक्ट,
मुझे वहां वापस जाना है. ये जाने का जो पथ होता है, where I know the goal. See, when you are doing sadhana, you don't know the goal.
No.
Right? You have accepted with shraddha and with to a certain amount of, let us say, accepting as truth. See, how we accept truth. There are 3 ways of accepting truth, right? One is what is called pratyaksha pramana,
yes,
what you experience
what
yourself.
Experience.
Now, everything can't be in your experience. So sometimes when, let's say that your child comes to you and says that I got beaten up in school. Now you accept that because she is dear to you.
Yes.
Similarly, when somebody is dear to me and tells me that I went to Delhi. Now, I haven't seen him board a flight. I haven't seen him got off the flight. But I accept the fact that that person went to Delhi because that person is dear to me, is credible. This is called apta pramana.
Yes.
And then that person's experience may also be limited. So there is what is called shastra pramana.
Yes, what the texts say.
And all the 3 need to align.
Yes.
Right? That's when we perceive. Now, what has happened till now is that Krishna started off with Shastra Pramana and being apta to Arjuna, gave him all the dear things that a dear friend can give, and now has given him Pratyaksha Pramana. But given Pratyaksha Pramana can't stay with you.
No.
So therefore, you have to travel the journey. Now you can travel the journey, and through Bhakti Yoga. So here comes the question that to answer your question that you asked. क्या कर रहे हैं? And for that matter, we have seen the manifest, we have seen the unmanifest. Actually, Arjuna himself asks that question. Which is the one that I must now embrace? I've seen the unmanifest. You've shown me the manifest. both in the vibhuti as well as in the physical form of being a four-handed deity that I can engage with.
And the Vishwarupa.
And you have shown me the unmanifest complete.
अब मैं क्या करूं?
अब मैं क्या करूं? And Krishna very clearly says, Rohit, both are good. He's a very good consultant. You see, he says it all depends. What does it depend on? Your manovritti. Where are you?
I would have also said the same thing. That and from the coaching paradigm, अगर मुझसे कोई पूछे, देखो ये तो तुम्हारी choice है ना.
मगर बहुत clearly ये बोलते हैं कि दोनों तुमको same जगह पे ले जाएंगे.
कैसे?
Doesn't matter. Haven't you heard this very nice saying? All roads lead to Rome.
Yes.
So somebody in the spiritual path has somebody said that. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, "Jato mat, tato path."
Correct.
As many views, that many paths. What do you need to do? Just those three things. Follow that one path with sufficiency, with proficiency, and with consistency. You will reach the terrace. Once you reach the terrace, and I'm using Thakur's own parable or paradigm analogy. Once you reach the rooftop, you will see there are multiple staircases coming up. But if you start jumping from one staircase to the other,
you will fall down.
You will either fall down or you will go down and start all over again. And then you'll say, oh, wo wala acha tha. Chal usme. You'll never reach.
So that's about the consistency.
And therefore, it doesn't matter whether you choose the one with the form or the one without the form. Thakur, when he used to meet people, one of the things that he would ask is, do you believe the form or the one with form or one without form? Because he would be able to direct that disciple, pupil, in the direction that that person needs and not a prescribed method. मेरा method, क्या बोलते हैं हम लोग? My way or the
highway.
ये नहीं है, वहाँ कोई prescription नहीं है. For that matter, सनातन धर्म में कोई prescription नहीं.
Correct. So सनातन धर्म कहता है, मतलब in its pure, absolutely purest form कहता है कि तुम कर्म से जाओ, तुम भक्ति से जाओ, तुम ज्ञान से जाओ, तुम राज्य से जाओ, तुम पहुंचेंगे हो.
छोटा सा so
disclaimer है.
Disclaimer ये है कि हर एक पाथ के अपने अपने there are hurdles and processes and rules, and the more engaged you are with the gross, the more difficult is the journey. Correct. Now this is logical.
Correct. But which would be again true for karma, jnana or bhakti.
Which is why you brought in this, when you asked this question, you actually prompted me to think this through and I'll give you this answer, is that even actually Krishna says in chapter 12 verses 8 to 11, he very clearly says, learn to accept me at the intellect level. First learn to experience me. Oh, I can't do that. So then, okay, experience me at the intellect level. I can't do that either. Okay, experience me at the mind level. Oh no, I don't know how to do that either. No, then okay, you do one thing. You do action but give up the action. वो भी नहीं आता है मुझे. अच्छा एक काम करो, एक्शन के फल को छोड़. इतना तो कर सकते हो.
यहाँ से तो शुरू कर सकते हो ना.
यहाँ से तो शुरू करो. तो ये जर्नी पूरी जो हम लोगों को दी है, it's actually a downward journey.
हाँ.
Right? But see how he started. He started us off on the right path by saying first, karmanyavadhikarasте ma phaleshu kadachana. First, give up the fruits.
Yes.
Right? Or rather, give up the attachment to the fruits.
Yes.
Then you give up the action.
Yes.
Then you sit down in meditation.
Yes. And then contemplation.
And then you go to contemplation. That whole process. He's now actually reversing it and saying, therefore, your oneness is right now. Swami Chidananda used to say, you are free right now. It is we who've tied us down. So what do? You need to move back one step. Not working, move back one more step. Not working, move back to the last step. Start again. But be consistent. That is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is not.
The rituals. कि आप बैठे बैठे घंटी बजा रहे हो, वो भक्ति नहीं.
वो नहीं.
तो भक्ति क्या है? पहले तो okay. So दो चीजें इस पे. एक तो भक्ति क्या है? दूसरा, in this journey of sufficiency, proficiency, consistency, हम कर ही तो रहे हैं, कुछ ना कुछ कर ही तो रहे हैं. तो फिर ये कर्म क्यों नहीं है और भक्ति क्यों है?
So what you do is all karma. Krishna also said there is nobody who is
karma
inactive.
Is inevitable. ये तो
right?
हम establish कर चुके हैं.
There is nobody who is not acting. If I say I'm sitting, then I'm also doing some acting.
Yes.
It's not about the physical action. It is about the mental state in which that action is being done.
Intention.
The intention the emotion and the intellectual dispassion that with which I am able to engage in action. We have two devotees that we can play around with just for understanding conceptually. So the first one is Arjun. He has seen that big manifest and he is now unable to grasp that entirety, and therefore he's struggling with the formless, and he says, please come back into one small form. And then there is somebody whose name itself we have added that word bhakta.
प्रहलाद.
Yes.
जब आप भक्त कहते हो, then naturally it completes itself with प्रहलाद.
Right? I mean, look at him. Young child. But what does he see? He sees Vishnu in everything. He is not looking for a four-handed form. He is seeing Vishnu in everything. Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat.
ये तो विभूति हो गया. In its own way.
नहीं, ये विभूति को भी पार करके सब कुछ. विभूति में क्या है?
हाँ, okay.
विभूति में स्पेसिफिकेशंस हैं. यहाँ सब कुछ टू दी एक्सटेंट कि उसके पिताजी बोलते हैं ये खंबे में भी है. हाँ है. ले खंबा तोड़. तो उसमें से जो निकलता है वो तुम्हारे इमेजिनेशन, मेरे इमेजिनेशन के बाहर है. We have never imagined something like this, right? And this, now you see this, huh? He's sitting there, 4 hands. In some pictures we see his 10 hands, roaring, blood smeared all over his body. He has entrails garlanding him. He's pulled out the entrails. Yes. There's a dead body lying in front of him. In his hands, he has nails and he's ripped apart the stomach. All the gore, all the entrails are falling out. The innards are falling out. And in bloodlust, this being is roaring and the roars are shaking this entire world. Shiva says if he keeps roaring like this universe will shake at its foundations.
Yes.
I don't want my work to be taken over. Go and stop him. And he tells that to Lakshmi. You go and stop him. No. I've never seen him like this. This can't be him. And with no hesitation, Prahlad goes and he stands there and he praises.
क्योंकि प्रहलाद को तो विष्णु ही दिख रहे हैं ना.
Correct. That where unmanifest and manifest, even the boundaries between manifest and unmanifest merge, is bhakti. So when you ask me what is bhakti, that is bhakti. How do I express bhakti? That becomes the next question. Oh, सब कुछ ही कर्म है, तो करना क्या है?
Not just express bhakti is this level, for the lack of a better word again, this level of devotion, submission, surrender, ये intellectual तो नहीं हो सकता.
Correct.
खाली intellectual तो नहीं हो सकता ना कि मैंने I have diffused the boundaries of my little ego intellectually and I have seen the clay in all the pots and all the clay, etc., all of which is to a large extent it is an intellectual activity. Requires discretion, rationality, judgment, viveka, buddhi, etc., etc. And I feel it and I experience it through the manas. But how do you transcend that intellect?
So here is where I will go back to why are we then stuck? Why are we not able to do this?
Correct.
Because of, if you have seen Swami Chinmayananda's chart, which is called the BMI chart, he has an Omkar, and then he has, under the Omkar, he has the body, the mind, and the intellect, the BMI, and the body is what is called the perceiver, and it looks at objects.
Yes.
The mind is a feeler and is looking at emotions.
Yes.
And the intellect is the thinker and is looking at thoughts. Now look at this construct. There is this Omkar and there is the body and mind. What's in between? There is a big V that he puts over there, all the vasanas. Now what is this journey of bhakti all about? The journey of bhakti is the erosion, a continuous erosion of the vasanas.
कैसे?
So इसमें 2 तरीके की बात करते हैं. पहला बात करते हैं, हम भगवद गीता से थोड़ा बाहर जाते हैं और पुराणों में जाते हैं.
Correct.
तो वहां हमें ये बताया जाता है कि 9 तरीके से, there are all 9 different methodologies which we can use to start eroding the vasanas in us.
Yes.
And it starts with Shravanam.
Yes.
Listen. Right? Shravanam, then Kirtanam Vishnu.
Yes.
Right? Talk about him. Listen about him. And so on and so forth. Ultimately, it comes to Atma Nivedana.
Yes.
So that is one path. Right? Where I am continuously in all, because I'm using the Vibhuti Yoga. What am I doing in the Vibhuti Yoga?
Yes.
I am continuously contemplating. I am doing
The higher
Shravana,
and
I am
higher.
doing Shravana, I am doing Kirtana.
Yes.
And also, actually in chapter 10, he says this, that once you have touched that and you want to go there, and you find somebody else who is also wanting to go there, the only topic that we will talk about is that.
Correct. Satsang.
Right? Satsang, right? For that matter, birds of a feather, so on and so forth. So now, therefore, when we start talking only about that, what are we doing? We are basically doing Kirtana.
Yes.
So, Archana is basically talking about the names and the forms and the
Now,
leelas and
yes.
so on and so forth. So, within these, we are again concentrating our mind away from the world of objects, emotions and thoughts into focusing them into a particular
Yes.
direction. In that journey, therefore, there is one part. There is another methodology, or rather the methodology that is talked about in the Advaitic thinking.
Yes.
And in the Advaitic thinking, it says there are 4 things that you've got to do. First, Nitya, Anitya, Viveka. Understanding or discriminating between that which is eternal and that which is not.
Okay.
Now just think, what is eternal? Only Brahman is eternal.
Yes.
Aksharam Brahma. Very clearly he said, right, in the Akshara Brahma Yoga chapter, he defines it in 2 words. That which does not is eternal is Brahman. Everything else is not Brahman.
It's not Brahman.
Correct? So the moment you start looking at change and you see change and you say, this cannot be Brahman, this viveka, this discrimination, the use of the intellect, the sharp intellect
Is
one
the
step.
first. Is the first.
Is one
step.
one
It's not
part
first, but
or one prerequisite.
Yes.
The second is, and we talked about it in chapter 2 and chapter 3, is not getting attached to the
karma phala.
Karma phala.
Yes.
Iha mutra karma phala bhoga virada.
Yes.
Right? Iha mutra, now and future. I am not interested. Doesn't mean that I stop doing karma. I am no longer interested.
So I dissociate myself from the phala of the karma, and we spoke about it.
Did we see that in the Gita also?
Idam namama.
Right?
Yes.
So we saw that in the Gita.
Yes.
The third thing he says is Shad Sampat.
Yes.
I'll talk about that.
Yes.
And the last is wanting to get there. I may have everything, but I don't have the desire to go to get moksha. Now, isn't that also a vasana? A lot of people come and ask me this, right? And I always say, yes, it is. And I go back to Sri Thakur's example. And he says, if there's a thorn in your foot, what do? You take another thorn and you prick it and you remove the thorn and you take both thorns and you throw them away. You don't carry that other thorn, aur ye baad mein aur ek chubhega to kya karenge? We don't do that, right? So, very beautifully he explains this. Thakur's parables are so very down to earth and so easy to understand. So, even that desire drops off. The desire for moksha also drops off. In Nirvana Shatakam, he clearly says, I am not moksha.
Yes, this actually just takes me back to the Nasadiya Sukta, which says that before the creation of anything, Srishti se pehle kuch bhi nahi tha, sad bhi nahi tha, asad bhi nahi tha. And then he talks about the presence of desire, that how it was kama. And as we always say, right, that the desire is at the beginning of all creation. In the beginning is desire.
So therefore, now we looked at 4 things. We looked at Nitya Viveka, we looked at the Karma Phala, giving up the Karma Phala, we looked at the Shat Sampat, and we looked at the Mumukshatva.
Yes.
What is the Shat Sampat? This is the qualities that we need to have to be able to sustain this journey. 6 things. Shama, control over your mind. Dhamma, control over your physical senses. Uparati, withdrawal or non-involvement with things that are happening. What Swami Chinmananda used to say, 100% involvement, 0% attachment. That is Uparati. Right? Uparati, Titiksha. Titiksha is endurance and acceptance, right? Acceptance of other people. Some people normally put it as endurance in a negative sense. Oh, I tolerate. Tolerating is patronizing. It's not about patronizing. This is about acceptance, right? Accepting things that they happen as they happen. Not saying, oh, आज कितनी गर्मी है. अरे गर्मी के सीजन में गर्मी होती है.
Not whining about it, not tolerating it, but accepting it. है गर्मी. ये है.
Right? This is Titiksha. Samadhana. Focus. And finally, the one which is our favorite, it is called Shraddha. Right? So, because even the Gita says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. You need to have Shraddha to be able to start the journey. If you start the journey by saying, ये तो नहीं होता है.
नहीं, but हमने तो जर्नी अपनी यहीं से शुरू करी थी ना. Before we got into Vibhuti Yoga and before we got into Vishwarupa, हमने तो जर्नी वहीं से शुरू करी थी ना, श्रद्धा.
करेक्ट. अगर यदि श्रद्धा नहीं है तो ये जर्नी नहीं होती है ना. यदि हम यही बोलते हैं कि नहीं ये नहीं होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई टेल यू हैव नेवर सीन दिल्ली फॉर एग्जाम्पल, एंड आई नो यू लिव इन दिल्ली, बट लेट्स से यू हैव नेवर सीन दिल्ली, एंड आई टेल यू दिल्ली जैसी जगह है, ऐसा होता ही नहीं. यू विल नेवर रीच दिल्ली, राइट?
Whereas if you show me a glimpse of Delhi,
and therefore and you accept from me
कि यही दिल्ली है,
then you will have it.
और ऐसा दिल्ली होता है.
Correct. And that journey is called the Sankalpa Vakya. We say Srimad Bhagwad Gita su Upanishadsu. Right? I just now told you the Shat Sampat which comes from the Upanishads. And can I quote from the Gita, please. Where he says, Shama Shatraucha Mitrecha Tatha Mana Apamanayoho Shitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu Sama Sangha Vivarjitaha. Such a beautiful statement. This is the behavior that he's asking for. He's saying, Sama Shatraucha Mitracha. Shatru, Mitra. He is my enemy. He is my friend. I behave both the same with them. I am not affected by man and apamana. Right? Now, Shatru Mitra is where? In your mind.
Yes.
In your manas. It's in emotion. Man Apaman is where? It's in intellect. Right? I've been insulted. I've been praised. For that matter, Swami Shivananda. It's such a beautiful example. These people did these things, I think, for teaching us. Being a doctor, running so many charitable institutions, he was quite often recognized and awarded by various organizations.
Yes.
So they would come to the Divine Life Society in Rishikesh and they would garland him and so on and so forth. So the moment he would finish that, he would go into his room. And people were wondering, what does he do in his room? Why does he run into his room? Literally run into his room. They peeked inside and they saw that he would take off his khadao and he would whip himself. So somebody went inside and stopped him and said, why are you doing this? So he said, I just want to find out if it feels different. Because it should not. Being beaten and being garlanded are nothing but the same. Right?
If you can hold your head about you when everyone around you is losing theirs.
Correct. And how do you hold your head? By being equanimous. Sthita prajna. Correct. So here he says man apamana. Then he says shita ushna, which is in the body. Right? These all he is not attached to. Sangha vivarjitaha. He is not attached to all of these. He is not affected by all of these. Now this is virtually almost exactly what he has repeated in chapter 6 earlier. Yes. But now it gains power. The same words now gain power.
Because now you know what's at stake.
Yes.
And you know that you have it in you.
So that time when you were doing it to settle your mind down. Now you are doing it to propel your mind and your intellect to that ultimate. That Eika is Bhakti Yoga. That's why it's Bhakti Yoga. That's how you use Bhakti to reach your destination.
To reach yoga, to be at union. Wow. So I'm just thinking that we've actually made the journey over the last 6 chapters from 7 to 12. We started with just understanding the nature of Tat. And from there we understood. We spoke about the manifest, the unmanifest, the Brahman, the Sat Chit Anand, the universality of all existence and how it's one and how we can experience and engage with it. To even beyond the universality of that which is not even manifest, and how it just needs a shift in our perspective. And then Bhagwan Sri Krishna, oh, how brilliant he is, draws it all together and brings us back to saying all it needs is for you to be proficient, to be sufficient, and to be constant. And do that with forgiveness, with Kshama, Dama, and we'll go to the Shat Sampati again. But it just needs you to. It's all you.
Correct.
It's just all you. And your state of mind and your effort. There's no counterparty.
And there's no need for one.
There is just no counterparty. So all of that Arjun Vishada Yoga of, my Shvasura and my Shalam and my brothers and my grandfathers and this field and my cousins and my brothers is also irrelevant, because Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying, Arjun, this is just between you and yourself. And if you consider me the other, then between you and me. Thank you so much for the Bhakti Yoga. And I'm quite looking forward to the journey of the Asi.
Hari iti Srimad Bhagwad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyayah. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Na 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 na.